Join Bruce and myself in this epic travel video where we stay on the Greek island of Nisyros for 3 months. We use Nisyros as a base, and while we're there we'll visit Egypt, Norway, the Greek mainland, London and some of the Greek islands, which we'll present as separate videos. So jump in and enjoy Nisyros with us. As all Australians would know, it's a long trip to visit Europe, but we head off from our hometown of Adelaide in South Australia, stop in transit at Singapore and then head to London where we stay for a few days, which is part of a separate video, and then we head to Athens, and from Athens we fly the short trip to Kos, and by Kos we take the ferry to our island Nisyros. The house or villa that we have rented in Mandraki, which is the capital of the island of Nisyros, is about a 7-minute walk from the beachside restaurants and the town centre. So we get settled in, get unpacked, have a bit of a look around, and then we come outside and say hello to Irene, the neighbour across the way, and then go and have a look around at the island. The Greek island of Nisyros, shown here with a red surround, is in the Dodecanese area of the Greek islands and is not far from the Turkish coast. Nearby islands which we also visit is Telos, Symi, Kos and Kalymnos, and we'll be doing separate videos for these islands. Being a small island, Nisyros only has 4 towns. The main town, its capital, Mandraki, followed by Pali, Emporios and Nikia. And Nikia and Emporios overlook the volcano, as Nisyros is a volcanic island. Nisyros is like many other Greek islands and has a number of restaurants that are located on the seafront, and they don't disappoint in this respect, and a number of those restaurants also face west, so you can see fantastic sunsets. However, there are still a lot of good restaurants in the middle of the town, so you have to look around there as well. Whilst having a look around Mandraki, we find it's got this cute tiny little beach in front of all of the restaurants that you can go and sit down by and have a bit of a swim. It's really nice. It's early September in the Greek islands and technically it's autumn, but the weather is absolutely beautiful, being around the 28-29 degrees, sunny and total blue skies. There are a lot of visitors that visit Nisyros, and primarily from the island of Kos. They come over for day trips and then head home about 6 p.m. And it's about a 2-hour ferry trip between Nisyros and Kos. Nisyros itself is only a small island with about 1,000 permanent residents, and the rest is made up from tourists that come just for the day and other tourists that stay for longer periods, a bit like us. It's late in the day by the time that we get to Nisyros, so we head back to our accommodation and wake up early next morning, head down to the foreshore, and this is our first full day in Nisyros and Mandraki. And we come down to the foreshore before the tourists start flocking in, and look at that beautiful blue sea. That's what I love about the Mediterranean, is it has a blue that you just can't seem to get anywhere else on earth. We're wondering what this island is here. It's called Gyali, and apparently it's actually a mine for dolomite, and There is the island of Kos, and on the very left hand side, which you can't see, but is the town of Kalymnos. We continue our walk along the foreshore, and we sort of find that it's actually good to have a bit of a break from some of the crowds. If we were on Santorini or Mykonos at the moment, it would be absolutely crowded out, and so it's good to have a bit of a break from those crowds. And this little restaurant here, we end up having dinner in a few evenings time, and it's really nice food. We show you some pictures from that evening. Anyway, we keep walking on. I would probably define the Greek island of Nisyros as more of a fun island than, say, what Mykonos or Santorini are. There's quite a lot of restaurants for the size of the island, and they're well appointed, have friendly staff and great food, but they don't have pounding nightclubs. Of course they have music and so on at the restaurants, but there's no big pounding nightclubs and none of the glitz and glamour of some of the other islands. But it's where you go to relax, and most tourists would probably either come for a few days, stay on the island for a few days, and then head on to their next island. But because we're using it as a base to do other activities, of course, we're here for 3 months. It's just the beautifulest day in Mandraki, so we stop for a bite to eat. I snap a few pictures of Bruce because he hates his photo being taken, and so while he's on his mobile phone I snap a few while trying to be serious. But we have a nice frappe and a toasted sandwich. We take a bit of a look around, take some photos, and then once we finish our lunch we head off back looking around. When we got back to our villa from looking around, we found we had 2 little friends sitting by the doorway, and whilst we were told not to get friendly with the cats, how could you resist those little faces? We're up nice and early the next day, make a cup of coffee and stick our heads outside to look at the sort of day it is. And unsurprisingly, we've got a couple of friends out there. This is the young kitten, or baby as we call it. There's Mum, and if you actually look at the top of the picture, there's another little white cat sitting on the stairs. So that's also getting interested. We feed the cats and we feed ourselves and head for a bit of a walk down to the port, which we haven't been to since we arrived about a week ago. It's really windy, but as we walk down there, we see that their tourists are starting to arrive for day trips from the nearby island of Kos, and it's really windy. Before too many tourists from the nearby island of Kos arrive, we get in a few snapshots of the area before it starts to fill up. Then we have a bite to eat ourselves and a bit more of a look around the city in the early afternoon. The weather is really good, it's about 28 degrees, the wind has died down, and it's beautiful Greek island weather. There's no doubt that Nisyros is a nice, relaxed, laid-back island, but I must admit there are times when you do see tourist groups like this group here. It gives the island a bit of an upbeat sort of feel for a few hours while they're here, and this group, who look like they've just arrived, some will sit back and have a nice relaxed lunch and a look around, and others will just go and look around Mandraki, the town that we're currently in. My mate Bruce heads off home to do some washing, and I stay back to explore a little church I found. Mind you, I'm still getting over bronchitis, so pretty croaky.
I found a little church buried under the ground. I don't know if you can get in there. I'm watching out for snakes as well. Let's have a look. Oh wow, look, you can go in. It's open once you untie the little...
What I love about the Greek islands is that there is so much respect, especially amongst the young people, for buildings such as this little church. They're left unlocked 24 hours a day and anyone can go in, but they remain in perfectly good order. If this was in Australia, it would be graffitied and everything would be broken or stolen. It's incredible. Heading back home, I thought I'd better get in and help Bruce do some of the utility work like shopping, and then we walked down to the foreshore where there's a nice restaurant that we want to dine at. There's a few other people at the restaurant as well, and as well as a beautiful food, we're also treated to a fantastic sunset. Next morning we head downstairs, and of course waiting for us, looking in the windows, is two little cats waiting to get some food. So we give them some food, give ourselves some food, and then we're heading off down to the port where we're going to rent a car for a few days, which will be a lot of fun. As we walk to the port and the car rental company Manos, of course we walk along the foreshore, and it's really rough today. It's unusual, it's been pretty good, but today for some reason it's just windy and rough. I suppose that's autumn weather in the Greek islands. The wind is really rough down at the port, and you can see the waves crashing up on the dock, but we head off, get our car, and then go for a bit of a drive up to the hill behind the town. The first thing we do with the car is go to a lookout behind the town and try and find our house where we live, and we soon find it, and it's good to know whereabouts we fit amongst everywhere else in the town. The island of Nisyros doesn't have a lot of roads, so it doesn't take you long to get to places, but there's plenty of opportunities for photos and lots to see, so make sure when you do go out to have your camera with you. Dotted over many of the Greek islands, including Nisyros, are little churches like this one, Agios Zacharias, so we go in and check it out.
So we're about to go into the little monastery Bruce opened. And look, it's so tiny. It's only about 4 or 5 metres long by about 2 or 3 wide. It's lovely and clean.
After a brief visit around Agios Zacharias, we leave there and continue on our way. We can't help but notice that there's lots of rocks on the side, landslides, small landslides, but you've got to watch out for them, and also goats is another thing you've got to watch out for as well. They can be a real pain if you go around the corner and you don't see them.
Now we've come, well, we weren't going to actually visit this today, but we've come to the volcano, or one of the volcanoes. There's a bit of a sulphur smell, but this is like the back way.
Since we're at the volcano, we decided to check it out anyway. If you look at this photo we took, It actually shows you the size of the crater in comparison to the surrounding mountains. And if you look at this rather crappy video I took on my mobile phone, you can actually see people walking on the bottom of the crater. And when I zoom out again, very roughly, you can actually see the size of the crater compared to the people. It was great weather at the volcano, and because it wasn't windy meant that we could use the drone. Anyway, we continue on and come across the little town of Pali. Pali is probably about 8 or 10 kilometers from Mandraki. So we head down from the hillside and go down and have a closer look. The small village of Pali originally started life as a fishing village and is one of the oldest settlements in Nisyros. And as more tourists started to come to Nisyros from nearby islands, they turned their attention towards looking after tourists by opening up cafes and tavernas and accommodation, and of course make some more income. It has its own beautiful little natural bay and has a beautiful sandy beach nearby. If you get the chance, go and visit Pali when you go to Nisyros. It's mid to late morning in Pali and fairly quiet as boats laden with tourists haven't arrived yet from some of the surrounding islands, and so we head off to Nikia. On the way, we can't help but see this giant, what appears to be a hotel where construction has been halted or stopped for some reason, whether it be financial crisis or the builder's gone broke or COVID or something. But we tried to have a look inside, but most of the entrances are blocked up and you can't really walk through it. So we continue on through to Nikia and to lunch. We start to head away from the coastal roads and head upwards, and we had to stop when we saw this view of Pali and the nearby islands. Isn't it just fantastic?
We're in the little town of Nikia. And what a beautiful little town it is. Nice.
The walkways that you find in Nikia are pretty much the same all over the Greek islands, with the small narrow walkways and of course the ever popular blue and white paintwork. It's not long before we come out into a nice little space with some little cafe restaurants, and this is where we plan to eat, and it's really nice.
Sit down, and I've got a cat sitting on my knee. Didn't take long.
Our waiter was really good and made a few suggestions about what we could have for lunch, so we went with that, and it turned out really good. So it wasn't long before we were busy eating away. The cats are very cute, but you've got to be on the lookout, because if you don't look at your plate, one of them will be up there and grab something and run off. So just be on the lookout. With lunch dispatched, we start to amble back to the car, and because Nikia sits on the rim of the volcano, we're intent on the way back to actually have a look over the side and see exactly what the scenery is, and we weren't disappointed. We're back on the road again and starting to head homewards because it's about 3 o'clock and we need to do a bit of shopping, and there's one of the animals you've got to keep an eye out for on the roads. They're all over the place, little goats. On the way back to our villa where we're staying, we decided to call into a little church, the Holy Church of Genesios Theotokos Potomatisa. We haven't actually been inside it, but walked past it a few times and we were gobsmacked. You wouldn't think that something this magnificent has a basic facade and is pretty much just a doorway. So when you do see churches in the Greek islands, make sure you check them out. We get back to our villa where we're staying and find that mum and daughter Kat have settled in well. And I had to show you a bit of video from this morning. I opened the front door and it had been raining. And poor old Moggy Cat, that's this one here, was sitting on the doorstep, and I feel really sad for Moggy because it looks like the poor thing is unloved and he's got mange and he looks in really bad condition, and there's no other cats here at the moment, and I really feel for him because he didn't ask to be brought into this situation. And so I put a little bit of some white cloth stuff on the doorstep so he could sit there and wasn't too cold, and I can't let him in because he goes a bit crazy, but look at the poor face on that. It's coming into winter in the Greek islands, which is usually about 18 or so degrees, but cold at nights. We've had fairly windy and rainy conditions lately, and that deluge of rain has caused rock slides, which you can see on the side of the road. So you have to be careful of that and the goats. And some of these rocks are pretty big, so you wouldn't want to go hitting them if you go turning around corners a bit too fast. We're going to do a little bit more driving around and then we're off to the Spiliani Monastery. The Virgin Mary Spiliani Monastery sits upon a tall hill right next to the town of Mandraki. It offers excellent views of Mandraki itself and also out to the west. Disappointingly, the church itself was closed and there was no access available, but what appeared to be a prayer room was open and a couple of other rooms, so we checked these out. We're coming into the Spiliani church, one of the highlights of Mandraki. The Spiliani Monastery, at least on the day we went, is actually a very quiet place and gives you a bit of time for reflection. It's just very quiet in the rooms and very relaxing, and it's definitely a must-see if you go to Nisyros. Our 3-month stay on the Greek island of Nisyros is nearly finished, so it's with heavy hearts that we start to pack up and look forward to heading back home to Australia. But it's enabled us to do other activities such as visit Egypt, visit England, do a Norwegian cruise and a number of the other islands, and all of these will be shown in upcoming videos, so keep an eye out for them. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you soon.